We're here tonight for the Jobs in the Life Sciences Industry. We're hosting this here at UC Berkeley Extension. My name is Victoria Sharma. I'm the Program Director for Biotechnology and Mathematics at UC Berkeley Extension. You noticed when you walked in, we have a few catalogs there, as well as some flyers on the programs that we offer for the biotechnology and other life sciences programs. We also have a flyer out there for other free information sessions that we offer at UC Berkeley Extension every term, so that you can also join us for those if you would like.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming today. It's amazing because it's super hot out there and there's all these traffic jams, so I really appreciate it. Okay, so here's my bio, which Victoria was going to say. So I have a Ph.D. in Chapel Hill, did my undergrad at UC Davis, did a postdoc at Harvard in Austin, and these are all molecular biology. And then I joined a startup called School Biomedical. Then I went to executive recruiting, and then I wrote a book, which is right about careers in life sciences, published by Coldstream Harvard Press. And then I also started my own recruiting company, Synapsis Search. And for my recruiting company, I do executive level recruiting for biotech startups. Okay. So, I love this quote. The goal of this talk is really to find a job that you truly love. A job where you can't wait to get up in the morning and go to work because you love that job so very much. So, if you are doing what you love, then it's not work. And that's the goal. That's the goal of my book, talk. That's the goal of my course. So, in the beginning, there was the pharmaceutical industry. That's chemistry. And then came the biotechnology industry. So those are generally things made in cells. So RNA, DNA, protein, antibodies. These are called large molecules because they're very easy. And of course, companies that you're familiar with, Genentech, Amgen, and examples of drugs that are biologics, like insulin is the perfect drug. That's a biologic. It's made in cells and given to people. All right, and then it gets confusing. So then you have the biotechnology tools companies. So those are the companies that do instruments, tools, anything like the company you work at, LabSite, was that right? They're doing services, microscopes, to help people make drugs or do research. And that's also considered biotech. And then there's the medical device industry. So those are any instruments or software for a diagnostic or therapeutic purpose. And there's a lot of great medical device companies here in the Bay Area. So, for example, Medtronic, Tyco, Boston Scientific. So examples of devices would be anything in the hospital. Wheelchairs, anything in the hospital, that's devices. And then we have the biofuel industry. And so the and that's a brand new industry. So all together, that's all the life sciences. Then we also have healthcare, which are really hospitals. And I'm not really going to talk about that. If anybody's interested in that, that's kind of out of my area. But hospitals, HMOs, insurance companies, I do have one slide on this. But that's so here you are, student. And there's basically three main career paths for students in life sciences. So there's industry, which is the topic of my book, and also government, research institutes, and nonprofits. And then there's also academia, and there's lots and lots of great jobs in academia, in addition to being a professor. Lots of great jobs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So first, what I'm going to tell you about is my experiment, which was kind of like getting a second PhD. So what I did was a comprehensive and systematic assessment of all those careers out there in the life sciences, asking the basic question, what can you do with a science background? What are your options? And unlike a research experiment, there was no hypothesis. It was purely a data gathering experiment. And the end result is a research guide, like this. And the idea behind my book is really that you can flip through each of the chapters, and it gives you so much information that it will help you determine which is the right career for you, because they're all very different. And the goal is really to help people get on the right track and find that perfect thing. So an experiment then, I interviewed over 200 people, and the interviews were like a 1-hour telephone interview, and most of the people I interviewed were at the VP level. Most of them had advanced degrees, and I tried to interview at least 10 people per chapter. And then, like a scientist, I compiled the data, analyzed it, and summarized it. And the entire project took me 3 years. And by the way, I'm working on a second book. All right, so here is the you can't see this very well. The exciting results of my research. So what you're looking at is the table of contents. And it's really a phylogenetic tree, so you start with idea, discovery research, going all the way down to clinical, regulatory, sales marketing, into the technical operations, and then the services. So what you're seeing is that there's well over 100 different careers in the life sciences, and they're all really different. So first, before we talk about that, I should talk about the product development life cycle. So you first start with an idea in discovery research. A lot of the ideas come from academia, but several of them come from the company. And then when you have ideas, they go into lead optimization, which is chemistry, medicinal chemistry. And then you go into preclinical studies, which is animal studies. You test the drug in animals. And then you have this area called biochemical process development. And then it goes into an IND filing, the people in regulatory affairs. Anybody here interested in regulatory affairs? A few, okay. So the people working at the regulatory affairs interact with the FDA through this entire path. But they are in charge of the filings. And the filings are gigantic. After you get an IND approved, then you go into human clinical trials. And when you're doing a human clinical trial, it's an experiment on humans. You don't know the results. So you're testing a drug on humans. It's the first time you've ever done it. And during that time, you have continual scale-up, more chemistry, manufacturing. And then you apply for an NDA or BLA filing, which regulatory affairs does. And the size of the filings are gigantic. So it used to be about 10 years ago, the size of a BLA was before it was electronic, it was 3 semi-trucks full of paper. And 3 trucks, they would fill them up with paper, and they would drive over to Washington, D.C. And that's how much data there was. Now it's all electronic, and it's probably, 10 times that? Yeah, it's huge. Because everything that you ever knew about the drug needs to be told to the FDA. Everything. Okay, so once the drug is approved, then the company celebrates. They bring out the champagne, and then you have product launch, and then you have something there called commercial operations sales, so sales and marketing, which down there, I heard there's a marketing person, so that's where you would be. And then they continue doing clinical trials. It's called medical affairs. And what it is you have a drug, and it's now being taken by patients all over the world, and you want to see how the patients respond to the drug. So how many people here are interested in careers in research? They love working in a lab. Okay, great. 3 people. Great. What I've outlined are careers where you're doing discovery research, bench work. So for everybody else who doesn't want to do bench research, all these other careers, there's no bench research, and you can be very immersed in science. Okay. Engineers. I heard we had an engineer in the audience. Okay, for engineers, the areas where they really like to hire engineers is medical devices. Medical device is an engineering problem. And that's where it's like the VP of research is the VP of engineering in medical devices. Also think about the tools, those biotools, the instruments, like microscopes and cell sorters and all sorts. Those are also where the engineers go. So think about those. But there's engineers in all these areas. High tech. You're software. So high tech, there's the bio IT chapter. So that's everything from somebody interested in information technology and has an interest in molecular biology to the molecular biology with an interest in computer science. And it's a huge area. And right now that's growing because of DNA sequencing. There's so much data, and just managing all that data is a problem. So we need more and more IT people. But there's other areas as well, particularly clinical trials. We need IT people for that. Quality, there's an area called systems, quality systems. And in operations and manufacturing, there's an IT. But you need IT for everything. Business. How many people here are interested in business? Okay, a fair amount. So having a business background will help you with all these areas. Being able to do the work and also keep that business perspective in mind will really help you in all these areas. Is that better? Okay, who wants to be CEO one day? So I did a survey, and I looked at the from pharma industry. The vast majorities of CO from the pharma industry come from what vocational area? Any guesses? Chemistry? What was that? Chemistry? Yeah, in the pharma industry, the big pharma companies, most of the CEOs came from what vocational area? Sales, right. Sales and marketing. That is the place. So sales and marketing, they give you great education. It's your management. What is marketing? Marketing is about strategy. You have this great product, and how do you tell the world about your great product? And it's about psychology, human psychology. You have Crest and Colgate. They taste the same. They work the same. Some people pick Crest. Some people pick Colgate. Why is that? Marketing is the place. And marketing, they're like great training, and it's all about sales, and it's, people go up the ladder, and a lot of them become CEOs. So in the biotech industries, the vast number of CEOs come from what other area? So half of them came from sales and marketing, and the other half came from, any guesses? Yeah, that is a good one. So management consulting is great training to be CEO. But the vast majority come from discovery research or clinical development, because there's a lot of MDs who become CEOs. But also law. Law, you need to articulate your product. And so law is there are a lot of lawyers who are CEOs. Venture capitalists, a lot of the venture capitalists were formerly CEOs, and they become venture capitalists, become CEO. Project management, you're managing teams. So if you like all the areas and you don't know which one you like, you might consider going into project management, because you're managing projects in all the different areas. Business development is another one, because CEOs do deals, and in business development you're doing deals, so that's great training. And then operations, because you're running the company. And usually the person next in line to become CEO is the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. So, okay, who wants to earn lots of money? Okay, now I'm talking. So where is the money? The money's in clinical, because that's where the MDs are. And so companies need to pay MDs what they could earn in clinical practice. So if they're a cardiologist, let's say, they make tons of money, and companies need to pay them that same amount in industry. So there's lots of money. Sales. Sales is, if you want to make a lot of money, sales is your best bet. I mean, it's really easy to get in. It's a lot of work, but people make incredible commissions in sales. Now, and you start out small and you work your way up, and it's really competitive. It's hard work, but you can make really amazing amounts of money. Law. Anybody here interested in law? No, okay. But successful partners can easily earn $1 million a year, but it's super competitive, and most people don't become partners. So, and then, of course, the number one industry, a vocation area, when I did this survey, the number one area was investment bankers. Those guys were earning huge commissions. Huge. Okay, this is 2007. And after 2007, the Lehman Brothers went under, and there was that economic collapse, and they all lost their jobs. And you know what? It's back to business again. So once again, if you want to earn tons of money, think about investment banking. So what do investment bankers do? They're doing these huge financial transactions, such as they're doing IPOs, they're doing mergers and acquisitions, they're traveling all the time. It's a really stressful career. And I have this funny quote in my book that says, in investment banking, the only days that you can take off at work is at your own wedding and at your own funeral. So it's a really, really difficult career. So it turns out that making money and stress are directly proportional. So if you want to make a lot of money, you're going to have to work hard. And if you don't want to make so much money, but you can make still good money, there's great jobs to be had. There's great work-life balance careers. And if anybody has any questions about that, I can talk about that as well. Hot. What's hot? Well, regulatory affairs is hot. It has been hot and continues to be hot. Why is that? It's because people, when they go to college, they don't think, I'm going to major in regulatory affairs. It doesn't exist in college. And so people don't even know what it is even. And so there's just not enough people trained in regulatory affairs. But it's not for everybody. It's for people who are very detail-oriented. You need to dot the I's and cross the T's. You need to have great writing skills, and you need to be able to manage teams, because you're helping, the teams are writing the filings, and you're helping them do that. So it's a really, really difficult career, but it's great job security, the best job security. Did you have a question? What do you need to do to get into it? Well, it's hard to get in because it's such a hot area. But taking a certificate would be helpful. Learning about clinical trials would be helpful. There's, in addition to here, which we have a regulatory affairs certificate, which will really help you. But there's also there's a professional science master's degree you can get in regulatory affairs as well. But I'm not sure if you need that even. I mean, if you can get a certificate, and then you need to network, and you can get in. But you need to show that you can write. Yeah, have really strong writing skills, because it's a lot of writing. But there's also areas in regulatory affairs that are very easy for entry level. So there's like document management, because you're managing all these filings. There's IT positions. There's lots of areas within regulatory that you can get in. You can also get a job at the FDA. Great way to get into regulatory affairs. Good question. Anyways, what I'm also showing you are the applied sciences. So all the applied sciences are hot, and of course bio-IT, because there are very few people trained in both life sciences and IT, and there's a big demand for that right now. And what's coveted? Well, everybody wants marketing jobs. They're really fun, but you're competing with the newly minted MBAs and the salespeople. Everybody wants marketing. You're shaking your head, yes. Business development. There just aren't enough jobs in business development. It's very glamorous, but anybody interested in business development? Oh, business development. I have a slide coming up. I'll show you. But basically, you're doing deals, and I'll show you what that means coming up. But anyways, they're just, particularly small biotechs, maybe they have 7 deals in their lifetime, and a VP can come in and do all those deals. So there just aren't enough positions in that area. But the number one best area is venture capital. So there, you're basically raising money, and you invest in the startups. And you get to meet all the entrepreneurs. It's really, really fun. And you get to pick the winners. It's a really, really fun career. So here are jobs for entry-level graduates. Here are real titles where right now, with undergraduate degree or graduate degree, you can apply for jobs in all these areas. There was regulatory, working as a liaison or at the FDA. Funny. There's great jobs in the government. Lots of great jobs. And they have the best pension plans. So if you're interested, there's usajobs.gov. There's also usphs.gov as well. And there are tons and tons of great government jobs here and in Sacramento. All sorts of departments, hundreds. But I listed here the FDA, forensics, the patent office, auditing, public policy, but there's lots and lots of departments even around here, like the Department of Health and NASA. So here's where I'm really going to blow your minds. So if you're looking for a job in the life sciences, people always think drug companies. Well, what I'm showing you, there's many more than just the drug companies. So here is the drug companies, but then there's the tool companies, like I mentioned, so the reagents, the instruments, the genomics, platform companies, bio-IT software, molecular diet. But then there's the services. Now, these guys are really hiring. So the business model right now is companies are scaling down, and they're outsourcing the work to service companies. And the service companies are the ones really hiring. So the service companies that would interest probably you guys is contract research organizations. They're doing the clinical trials, and the contract manufacturers who are doing the manufacturing. And those guys are really hiring. And lots, tons of agencies. And then there's miscellaneous biotech pharma areas like agriculture, industrial biotech like Genencor, molecular diagnostics, veterinary companies, foundations, clean tech, biofuels is hot, journalism, and then there's, again, the government institutions like I talked about, tons of, lots of them, and then the molecular device industry is really hot here. They're doing really well. It's much more stable than the life sciences. And then academia, there's tons of careers in academia. So there's, in addition to being a professor, there's tech transfer, working in industry-supported labs, working in an incubator, education, career development, program management, working in research institutes, the list goes on. So combinatorially speaking, if you look at all these different areas and you multiply it by those different career areas in the chart, you can see that your options are huge. Okay, and also consider nonprofits. Nonprofits are a really great place to work. They're very altruistic. People love working in nonprofits. You don't get paid well, generally speaking, but they're great places to work. And I just listed just miscellaneous, but the ones for cancer is huge. The list is longer than this. I ran out of space. But there's all different types of nonprofits. Those are really great and fun places to work. And then there's careers in hospitals. Now here, there's a real demand. There is a shortage of nurses, doctors, and pharmacists. And the one area that's really hot is health information technologist, really super hot. But all these technologists, there's just a huge demand. And with Obamacare, more and more people are going to hospitals. A huge demand. Huge. Okay, so career development. So hopefully I've already sort of helped you figure out that there's tons of careers to decide. How do you career? Let me tell you, it's not easy. It's really hard to figure out the right one for you. So how do you do it? So basically what you want to do, just sort of career development 101, is you want to outline what your skills are and what your interests and what your values are. So skills could be good writing, good public speaking, good project management, good biochemist. Interests could be, you want to, you enjoy, traveling, maybe you like marketing, and then values and goals could be how much money do you want to earn, how much, do you want to work in a competitive environment, do you want to work in a non-competitive environment, do you want your work-life balance? And then where they all intersect, that's your ideal job, and it's really hard to figure that out. And there's a great resource called myidp.sciencecareers.org, and it's a free place where you can put in your profile and do a self-assessment. So what I would recommend is you could do that, and then I also have my own proprietary self-assessment test that's actually better than this one, which is it's just more targeted towards careers in industry. And basically, what you could do is, do this, and then if you can, visit career services. Do some self-assessment. Know yourself first before you go out there and try to look for jobs, okay? Figure out, and so know yourself, do some self-assessment, work with Victoria, or if you can, if you're an alumni to like Stanford, go back to Stanford, get some free career counseling, or SCU, or San Jose State, or wherever, UC Davis. Wherever you went to school, if you can go back there, a lot of times they allow alumni to get free career help. And then, do some self-assessment. And then that'll help you figure out your ideal job. But keep in mind that your ideal job is a moving target. So right now you might do this project and you might find that, I want to be a biochemist. But in 5 or 10 years, your goals might change. Maybe you get tired of working at the bench, and maybe you don't want to go in the middle of the night changing cells or something. And your ideal job may change, and it may go into project management, or maybe you're interested in, regulatory affairs. People move around. So, your ideal job is a moving target. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so here's the basic career development process. So you want to do some self-assessment, and then you got to read about your options. And that's what my book is about, but there's also a lot of information on the web. And there are other books, but read about all your options and figure out what lines up with your ideal job. And then you got to analyze the gaps. What is it that you need to do in order to get to where you want to go? And that's what's great about UC Berkeley Extension. They've got lots of great certificate programs that will help you get from point A to point B. And then you need to develop a strategic plan. So what do you need to do to get to where you want to go? So here are the sort of basic career transition steps. So after you do your self-assessment and you read about all those careers and figure out what you want to do, then you need to do informational interviewing. And how many people here have done that before? Several. Okay, great. Was that helpful? Yeah. Okay, so basically informational interviewing is you interview people who are currently in industry or wherever you want to go, and you interview them and ask, is this the right, and try to figure out, is this the right job for me, without actually doing the job interview or anything else. So it's a great way to figure out what's right for you. Then you want to develop your resume, network while you're doing all this, and then interview and find a job. And so basically this is what my class is about. This is pretty much my class. So self-assessment, I have my own proprietary self-assessment test. I have a lecture on doing information interviews, a whole hour-long lecture on resumes, an hour-long lecture on networking, and an hour-long lecture on interviewing, because I'm a recruiter. I've been doing this a long time. Okay, so careers and the life sciences. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to get to your business development question. So I want to say that drug development is a risky endeavor. So in discovery research, you may be screening millions of compounds. And of those, only maybe very few make it into preclinical animal studies. And of those, only 1 in 10 are approved in clinical development. So it's risky. There's attrition, significant attrition at each step. And the entire process takes 15 years on the average and costs over $1 billion. So small little biotechs can't raise $1 billion. They can't. So the little biotechs are really good at discovery research, and they get their drugs into preclinical or clinical, and big pharma is really good at the huge, big phase 3 clinical trials, and they're really good at sales and marketing. So what happens is the little biotechs get the drugs to about here, and then they license it to the big pharmas. And that's what business development people do. They're involved in that licensing deal. And that's kind of generally how we do it. Now, there's big biotech like Genentech. They do the whole process themselves. But the little guys, they license out their products. They get their milestone payments, which helps pay for everything. And then they use that to do their own drug development. So that's kind of how it works. But it is very risky. And a lot of companies come and go. So let's talk a bit about the culture of life sciences. So I interviewed over 225 people for my book, and I asked them, what is it you like the most about your job? And every single person in the book, except for one, had the same answer. Any guesses what it was? Why is it people love working in the life sciences? Yeah. It's working for a cause. It's working for a higher cause. So if you have relatives who have cancer or diabetes or a neurological disease, you know how important it is to get those drugs developed so that your friends can survive. It's working for a higher cause, and it's a very altruistic industry. People are highly, highly motivated to make drugs, to help people. That's what the industry is about. Okay. Then I interviewed, again, 225 people, and I said, what does it take to be successful in this career? And I found out that it didn't matter which career I was interviewing for. I got the same 8 things. They came up over and over and over. So any guesses, what does it take to be successful? What personality attributes does it take? Any guesses what those are? Team player, yes. Very good. It's on the list. 8 things. Being a team player is 1. Driven, yes. Motivation. Education. Oh, communication, yes. They're very, very, very important. That's number 2. Detail-oriented, yes. Any other guesses what it takes to be successful? Perseverance, who said that? Usually that's for the Ph.D.s, because the P in Ph.D. stands for perseverance. I mean, in grad school, you have to persevere no matter what. But in industry, if the project doesn't work, it gets terminated and you move on to the next. Things don't flounder as much. But you still need perseverance, as you know. It takes 15 years to get a drug approved. So, okay. So here we go. Flexibility was the number 1, which was really a surprise. What do you mean flexibility? So it's just being adaptable, rolling with the punches. You have your strategy all set up, and all of a sudden you have new data, and you have to change everything, and just being able to be flexible about it and be flexible about your career. So, for example, if you're, cardiologist, let's say, and your boss is a cardiologist, and your boss leaves, and now a neurologist shows up as your new boss, do you learn a new field, or do you look for a job? And so, just being flexible was super key. And then, of course, great communication skills, as she mentioned. So why is that? Because everything is team-oriented, so you need to have great communication skills, both written and oral, so that you can communicate what you think without offending others in your team. Being a team player, so everything is in teams, so it's all about working well together. Be a team player, great interpersonal skills, because it is team-oriented. You need to get along. A can-do positive attitude with a sense of humor. Being able to multitask, so working on multiple projects at the same time. Seeing the forest through the trees, meaning pay attention to details, but keep the big picture in mind. A customer's point of view. And creative problem-solving skills. Now, this list is really interesting for two reasons. First, it shows you this is what it takes to be successful in life sciences. And secondly, if you're looking for jobs and if you're interviewing, chances are the hiring manager is looking for these skill sets. So if you are interviewing, how many people are actively interviewing? If you try to emulate these things when you go to the interview, right? Because chances are that's what they're looking for. So, for the undergraduate, for those just in discovery research, generally speaking, you start off as a student, and after 5 to 7 years become a research associate, and then a 5 to 7 year senior research associate, and there's kind of a glass ceiling. Some companies, they might call you a scientist, but generally you're kind of a technician, but they're well paid. You're paid better than a recently minted Ph.D. And so it's a great career. You're treated really well. You're in demand. It's a good career, but there's kind of a glass ceiling just for discovery research. For all the other careers, people can move up. For the device industry, you do not need a Ph.D. For bio-IT, you do not need a Ph.D. Just in discovery research, it's Ph.D. oriented. But generally speaking, a lot of people move around. They might go into patent law or project management or marketing. They move around. Okay, so anybody here, you have a PhD. So, all right, so here is the sort of PhD ladder. You start as a postdoc and you go to scientist 1 to 3, and then you go to group leader, and then there's a bifurcation. You can become a fellow or principal scientist track, which is really rare and very prestigious. It's like being a tenured faculty member. And the rest, and that's for the people who love the science but don't like the administrative role. And so they kind of stay close to the science, but they don't manage people, and they're not involved in administration. And then the rest of the people go up to director, VP, VP R&D, and CEO. And this can move around. This is very generic. Now, if you're a famous professor or you invented something, you can do whatever you want. If you have some great idea, you can become a CEO. So there's no real rules here. It's just very generic. But each of these steps take 5 to 7 years. Okay, so anybody here interested in getting a PhD? Yes. All right. So there's a big supply-demand problem with PhDs. There's way too many, and there's not enough jobs. So before you get your PhD, I really highly recommend to read some books or some articles. So here's a recent article in The Atlantic, and basically what you're looking at is these are all PhDs and what they do after they graduate. And this is academia. So what happened was that the number of graduates getting jobs in academia as faculty members has gone down. And this is 1973 to 2006. So in 1973, you had a 50% chance of being a professor after you got your PhD, and a 20% chance in 2006, which was old data. This is old data. And the reason is it's that the number of academic positions has remained flat. It's just that in industry, in the United States, we've more than doubled the number of PhDs in the last 20 years, and India and China has like quadrupled. So there's way too many PhDs and not enough jobs. And industry just can't, hire that many people. So before you go and get your PhDs, I really highly recommend you really think hard about that. I mean, if you just love science and that's what you want, that's fine, because there are jobs, but I really would recommend that you look at the market, because it's really bad right now. I get a lot of resumes from PhDs looking for jobs. It's really hard. So let's talk about jobs in the industry. So even now, it's really challenging to get a job. There's just lots of people looking for jobs, and a lot of people think once they get their PhD, they can get, a scientist position at Genentech, and actually, it's really hard to get into Genentech. So they won't even look at your resume unless you have a Nature, Science, or Cell paper at Genentech. For Scientist 1, it's really hard. It's so competitive. So what I recommend is to go for those companies that you've never heard of. There's lots and lots of great startups here in the Bay Area. And just, apply to those companies, because Genentech is so competitive. They get 24,000 applications a day. All positions at Genentech. And, and the thing is with Genentech, they may be hiring, 6,000 positions? It's like a project management nightmare. Can you imagine trying to hire 6,000 people? How many recruiters do you need to do that? It's crazy. Yeah, so 24,000 resumes a day. That's insane. But anyways, there's lots of great companies in addition to Genentech. Genentech's a great place to work. Victoria worked there. So if you have any questions about working there, talk to her. All right, so what is the best approach to look for jobs? Any guess? No, somebody, yes. So networking, absolutely. Any other ones? Internships, good one. Any other guesses? Well, you can apply online, right? Yeah. Or what are the other ones? Work with recruiters. And what you need to do is all of the above. There is no one approach, all right? It's got to be multi-pronged approach. And you got to try everything because it's really hard to get a job. So the best way, though, and by far, the most people get jobs this way is through networking. Absolutely, most people. Let's do a survey here. How many people have gotten jobs through networking? All right. How many people have gotten jobs through recruiters? Nobody. How many people have gotten jobs through applying online? A few. How many people have gotten jobs some other way I didn't mention? Okay, so networking wins. Usually when I do the survey, networking wins. But especially if you're making a career transition, you really need to network. That's the only way to do it. So why is networking so effective? Well, it's because you're personally vouched for. So, for example, if a hiring manager at Genentech, let's say, they have a job posting and they get 6,000 resumes or 24,000, but 6,000, let's say, resumes. You can't look at 6,000 resumes. It takes days. But if your colleague says, I just met this person at a meeting and I think they would really fit in and they're a great match for the job, guess what? The hiring manager is going to look at your resume and say, yeah, let's interview that person. So that's kind of how networking works. And the more people you know, the more likely somebody's going to refer you for something. And the more people you know, people hear about jobs too. And they might say, oh, I just heard about a job for blah, blah, blah. Why don't you apply for that? Then, everybody's really helpful in the industry. They're going to help you out. So the more people you know, the more likely you can find a job. So how do you network? What does that mean, networking? So you can network, in person, in meetings, or online. So great places to network. So this is kind of my favorite list. But first off, thinking about networking, your alumni is your best. If people are going to really help you that are your friends and family. Actually, friends and family are your best networkers because they really can help you. But then alumni would be next. But then you can attend local and national conferences. So there's some great resources for you. Actually, Bay Biotech Review just changed to big3bio.com, but it's basically they list events and also news. But there's Audrey's network; she lists all sorts of events. But there's great organizations. So Bioscience Forum, I'm actually the program chair, so I'm a little biased. But we have once a month great biotech events. We usually have a VP of research or a CEO. gives a talk. You've attended them. So they're really, really high-quality events. They include dinner. There's also AWIS, Association of Women in Science. I highly recommend them. And there's, I don't know where everybody's from. There's one in Palo Alto. There's one in East Bay. There's one in San Francisco. And then there's a national one. But they have great events. And they're kind of at that border of people who are coming from academia want to make that transition to industry, and they really have very good career-oriented talks. And then there's the Bio2 Device Group. It's really great if you're interested in the medical device industry. They have free events on Tuesday mornings in Sunnyvale, and they have all types of events. They have COs and devices and the biologics, and they give talks, and they're very informative. And they also have once a month a Thursday night event, and it's only like $11. It's a really great group, and it's a great place to network. Bay Bio is your local Bay Biotech lobbying group, but they have good events, but they're a little expensive. EPIC is Indian Biosciences. It's really good. They have once a year a conference that I go to. It's great. CABS Web is for Chinese bioscience. It's really powerful. They have a wonderful once-a-year event, but they have all sorts of little events. Women in Bio I love that one. It's really good. We have a speed networking event coming up next month on the 13th in Mountain View. womeninbio.org. I'm going to that, and it's a really, really good event. And HBA is Healthcare Business Women's Association. So whatever your interests, if you're interested in clinical, there's ACRP. If you're interested in chemistry, there's ACS. There's a society for you. So if you're interested in regulatory affairs, there's RAPS. Is there anybody interested in a certain area that I haven't listed? Venture capital. There's NVCA, which you may not want to go to. It's a National Venture Capital Association, I think. And it's just venture capitalists that go to that. I'm not sure you'd want to. Let me think. Business. At the Bioscience Forum, we have business talks. In fact, next month we're going to have the former CEO of Supergen did a merger with Aztecs and pharmaceuticals, and he's going to talk about what does it take to be acquired. So it's very much a business talk. Yeah. biosf.org, it's free membership, but to attend an event, it's $35. It includes dinner, and they're really good events. Always really good. So the marketing one is HBA, for sure. That's Healthcare Business Women's Association, and that's basically women in sales and marketing, pretty much. And then project management, there is a group, it's called projmjr.org, and I think it, mgr.org, and I think they went under, and I think there's a new one, and I don't remember the name. So for BioIT, there's BioIT World, which is free online literature. But there's, if you're interested in health, there's Health 2.0 conference, and there's a lot of like healthcare IT stuff. And if you're really super interested in it, Rock Health there's an incubator over at UCSF. It's called Rock Health, and it's healthcare IT. But there's a lot of good stuff. But I would start with the Health 2.0 conference. So what you need to do then is to go to these events, and if you talk and meet people and you say, I'm interested in regulatory affairs or whatever it is you're interested in, people will eventually help you and will steer you in the right direction, and you will find a job. And if you go enough to these events, and even better, if you volunteer at these events and help, they love that, then you really, eventually you walk the walk and talk the talk, and then you get the job. That's how it works. All right, using LinkedIn. How many people here are on LinkedIn? Oh, great, everybody. So, LinkedIn is the way to go now. I mean, it's really, I'm a recruiter, so I can tell you the whole recruiting industry is changing, and recruiters are using LinkedIn now. And I know people who have gotten jobs because they got a call from a recruiter on LinkedIn. So how do you get noticed? So as you know, LinkedIn is this giant database, and the bigger your network is, the more access you have to that gigantic database. And so you want to link in with Lions. Anybody know what a Lion is? It's a LinkedIn open networker, which means people who will, if you send them an invitation, they will accept. Or you want to use power users like me. Like, I'm super LinkedIn. I have like thousands and thousands. So if you want to link in with me, I'm happy to accept. and link in with recruiters. And then you want to join as many LinkedIn groups as you can. That's really will greatly expand your access. And you have a limit of 50, unfortunately. And you want to link in with your alumni associations. And then what you want to do on your profile is include as many keywords as you can. So just treat it like a resume and put in as many keywords as you can. And also add your publications, if you have any, because there's keywords in your publications. And then it costs recruiters $5 to send you an email. So if you include in there a way to be contacted, it could be a website link, or you could say your email address on the profile, then you will get many more people contacting you because it's free. So what you want to do is, this is what I do anyway, so I put Toby, and then there's a space, and I spell it, A-T, and a space, and then, synopsis, space, search, space, .dot, space, com. And I've never gotten those on those bad email lists. So it seems to work. So I can recommend doing that. Anyways, if you have a way to be contacted, you are much more likely to be contacted by recruiters. Then when you contact people to connect, it's better to click on them and send them a note saying why you want to connect with them, as opposed to just sending an invitation where it's a blind invitation. So write a personal message if you can. And then there's jobs on the site. And you also want to, for your own endorsements, you want to have endorsements, because recruiters look at your endorsements. So if I look at somebody's profile, I can't figure out what they do, I go to their endorsements and I say, oh, they're good at biochemistry. And it doesn't say anything up there about biochemistry, but the endorsements tell you what they're good at. So you want to create your own endorsements so that recruiters can figure out what you're good at. And then you want to endorse your friends, because then they endorse you. And then, and then if you're looking for a job, change your status, because that alerts your network that you're looking. What happens is when you go to a profile, they have is this person good at biochemistry, HPLC, LIMS, blah, blah, blah. And you can click an endorsement button. Anybody can? And then you get endorsed down below. And so basically it shows what you're good at. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a new tool. What? It's being liked. Okay, good one. Okay, it's like being liked on Facebook. Similar concept. But you're being endorsed for specific skill sets. I only really use it for, I get this all the time, and I'm sure none of you will do this, but I get the Ph.D. who is just graduating, and they don't put any information on their profile. So they went to Dartmouth, and I can't figure out what they studied, nothing. I have nothing to go by. I can't help them because there's just no information. And so then I go down to endorsement, biochemistry, molecular biology, and I read those. But otherwise, I don't use it. Yeah. Yes? Oh, there's a place in there for your status that you can change when you, There's a place in there. Yeah. When you're looking for a job and you apply, you're going to send your resume, and what's on your resume, now that should be legitimate, right? What people say about you in an endorsement on LinkedIn, that's relevant. I mean, yeah. And I mean, everybody has different policies on LinkedIn. Like, some people won't accept your invitation, and some, like me, I'll accept everybody's invitation except for the people who say, since you're a person that I trust, I want to be your friend or something, and I click and they have 0 friends and they're in some foreign country, I don't accept them. Because I don't think they're real. They're not real people. They're trying to get my email address. That's what I think. I don't know. Maybe anybody know what they're doing? I don't know. Anyways, I don't accept them because if I think there's a real person at the other end, I will accept. I don't care what industry. If they're aerospace, software, it doesn't matter. If I think they're real, I will accept. If I think they're going to advertise to me, I will not. Yeah. Okay, so then you want to set your MySpace and Facebook on private. Facebook is for friends, and trust me on this one, recruiters, when you apply for jobs, the first thing they do is go to Facebook and see if there's pictures about you. So you really want that on private. All right. Career counselors. Use your career counselors. There are lots of career counselors on campus, like we talked about, UC Berkeley. But then there's free career services. Here in the Bay Area, there's lots of great free career services. This is the Jewish vocational services, and I think they're really good. The Job Forum, Nova, and ProMatch are down in the South Bay. Peninsula Works, East Bay Works, and a lot of them give free interview coaching and resume preparation tips. So use them, they're free, and there's a lot of them here in the Bay Area. How to follow the news. So how many people here follow Biospace? Just a couple, yeah. So Biospace is free, and it's really good news because you need to know what companies are hiring, what companies had a clinical trial success, what companies just got funded by venture capitalists. You got to learn all that stuff to know who's doing what. So Biospace is really good. And then Big 3 Bio is really good. And it's Bay Area only life science news. And there's jobs in there. Big 3 Bio, and events. So they have financials, news, jobs, events, and more information. Fierce Biotech is also really good. In fact, I like Fierce Biotech the most. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything to sign up. Fierce Bio Research is for the researcher, like the Ph.D.s. Nature Biotech, again, for the Ph.D.s, but it's really good. The scientist is good. And then the Biotech Industry Organization, BIO, is the largest biotech lobbying group in the United States, and they have gigantic conferences. They have them usually in Maryland, but every year it's somewhere different. Sometimes they have it here. They're gigantic, 40,000 people. So anyways, got to follow the news. So the art of resumes. So when you send a resume to the hiring manager, literally, they do this. They go, that's it. They've looked at your resume. It's called the 5-second scan. And it really is that fast. So how do you go about being picked up as, they go through 1,000 resumes, and only a certain small group get in the good pile, and the rest get thrown out. So how do you go about getting noticed? It's hard. So there's no trick to it. It's you need to align the skills with the position. So the company's hiring, they have a need to fill. And you need to show them that you are the right person for that job. And how you do it, there's no trick. Is they're looking for 5 things like the lottery, and you need to put on your resume if you have those qualifications. If you don't, then don't include them. But, you need to show on the front page in bright text up at the top that you have these 5 things or whatever you have. And if you align your resume with the job, you're much more likely to be considered, okay? You don't want to hide it in the text because they may not find it. So what are some other things you can do for your resume to get noticed? What makes a good resume? Keywords, exactly. So what are some good keywords? Yeah, project management, biochemistry. It turns out that the biotech industry is divided by therapeutic area of specialty. So for example, neuroscience, Alzheimer's, cancer, infectious diseases, these are all therapeutic areas. And each of them are very, very specialized in a specific area. And they're looking to hire people who have the right skill sets for those areas. Or if it's like a project management position, let's say, you need to have all over your resume, I'm a project manager, all over the place. But anyways, you want to have the keywords. The reason is because when you send in your resume, it goes into a database. And then maybe 6 months later, they have a new opening, and they do a search in their database for project manager. They type in project management, and if it's on your resume, you'll be considered. So you want to have as many keywords as you can for your resume, for the software. Any other things you can do to increase your visibility for your resume? No typos. Spell check. Absolutely. That one's, yeah. Yeah. So how it works is when companies post a position on Craigslist or Biospace or whatever, they get like thousands of resumes, and so they're looking for reasons to eliminate them. So the number one reason to eliminate is errors. They're looking for your grammar and your attention to detail and your work quality product. And if they see errors, they know that's the way you're going to be in the real world too, right? They don't want to work with somebody with errors. So you may have to make sure go through spell check. It doesn't take any effort, but then you also have to read it because spell check doesn't catch everything. So spell check is huge. Okay, so length is very controversial. Now, generally speaking, if you're coming out of an undergraduate degree, you really just need 1 page. But after that, the sky's the limit. Now, you don't want to be too verbose, right? Because, if they see that, they don't like that. You need to bullet your sentences, and each sentence needs to be concise. And it should summarize not only what you did, but the results. And if you can keep it, put claims behind your, great in sales versus increased sales by 10%. You need to put numbers if you make a claim. But the length is controversial, and some people will say, oh, you only need 2 pages or whatever. I disagree. You need as much room as you need. And don't try to, do the fine print, because that'll guarantee nobody will look at your resume. So, it has to be attractive to the eye. There has to be space to see those keywords. So it has to be, keep the format simple. Don't try to be too creative on your resume. Okay, so that was another one, is objective. A lot of people, recruiters will tell you, you don't need an objective in your resume, but I disagree. So your objective is what job you're applying for. So it could be biochemist seeking scientist 1 position. Really simple, but it tells the human resources comes in, they see, oh, you're interested in biochemistry, and they go and they take your resume over to the VP of biochemistry and say, here's a candidate. But if you don't have an objective, they just see your resume and they go, I don't know what they want, and in the garbage. Or, yes. Well, yes. Not everybody. Yeah, not everybody reads the cover letter, especially human resources and recruiters. I never read cover letters, but the hiring manager will if you get to that level. So there's the human resources is like the admins or the people doing the administrative work, hiring, right? And then it goes to the hiring manager as the person actually hiring for a position. So it really depends, but you want to have it in your resume because then it's like it tells the human resources where to send your resume. So if you say, I'm interested in the project management position posted on the web, they'll take it to the hiring manager and the project management and it gets on the right place. But if you don't have it, then they don't know where to take your resume. And to get back to Victoria's point, a lot of people do this thing called shotgun resume submissions. So basically they send a resume to everybody, and it's very generic. And companies don't like that. So if they smell generic resume, in the garbage. So what they want to see is that this is you are the perfect person for this job. You've been working all this, to these steps and to get to this position. This is exactly the right position for you. And they want to see that you tailored your resume specifically for this position. And this position only, for this company. And there's a reason why you want to work in this company. That's what they want to see. Okay, you need to sell them on this. And you also want to keep a copy of your resume, because if you go in and you interview, you'd be going, oh, which copy is that one? All right. So you want to keep a copy of all your resumes.
So what I was curious about is I often get questions about work gaps and how you deal with that. Especially a lot of my students might have stayed at home with children or an aging parent or something like that. They're trying to get back into the workforce. But I know from a hiring standpoint, if I see a big gap, then I'm concerned about that. So I'm wondering how you deal with that.
So the question is about work gaps. You got to spin it somehow. My feeling is it's always just good to be honest. To say you had kids or you were taking care of somebody. Whatever it is, the reason, it's just good to be honest. Okay, working with recruiters. Some of you work with recruiters. Talk about that. That's another great way to find a job, particularly to attempt to hire. So recruiters are really great to work with because they know about positions that may not be posted. So they may know about the hidden job market, but they also get they screen you and they put your resume right in front of the hiring manager. So it's a great way to get noticed. But then there's some not so good recruiters out there. You have to be careful who has control of your resume. So be really careful working with some recruiters. There's some sleazy ones out there. Not me, of course. But so anyways, there's pros and cons of working with recruiters. But whatever you do, do not give a recruiter your resume if they say they're going to help you get a job. Particularly the recruiters from other industries. There's a lot of them that will, what they do is they take your resume and they just send it, to all the companies without your permission. It's not good. So be careful. Okay, let's talk about interviewing. So once you're interviewing, congratulations. It means that you pass the technical part, and now they're checking for the corporate match. Because companies are teams. It's like getting married. You're getting married to this company, and they want to make sure that you're going to match the company's corporate environment. So what do hiring managers look for when they interview? Well, they're going for that gut feeling. Do they want to work with you? How will you behave in good and bad times? Will you fit in the team? And you need to be thinking about that as well when you interview, because you want to make sure that you're going to like the company. Most people are not happy at their jobs because they don't like the corporate culture. Usually people don't like their boss. But it's a real problem. People think, I'm just happy to get a job. But once you're in there, it's another story. You really want to make sure there's a good match. So what are hiring managers? What are some interviewing tips? Anybody? Interviewing tips. What can you do to really do well in an interview? Yes. You learn about the company. So do research. Research, absolutely. Research is the number one thing. They hate it if you go in there unprepared. You do not want to wing it in an interview. No, you really want to do all the research. So how do you do? You do research about everything in the company. Everything. Research the SEC, the finances, the management team, know all the bios, know the technology, do as much research as you can. You really want to be prepared. And bring in intelligent questions to show that you've done that research. Any other things you can do? Interviewing. Practice. Practice interviewing. So do interviewing practice? Yeah. And so another thing you have to think about, this is one of my biggest tips, is to read these books called The 101 Best Questions to the Toughest Interview Questions, the 101 Best Answers to the Toughest Interview Questions, or something like this, because there are standard questions people ask, and you need to be ready to answer them. You don't want to be standing there like a deer on the highway, You want to have already in your mind a prepared answer to standard questions like, why are you interested in coming to this company? Why are you qualified for the job? Why do you want to work here? The standard questions that they all want. So, tell me about yourself. Those are the most common questions. So you have to be prepared for those. Good one. Any other ones? Bring questions.
Bring questions prepared for the interviewer.
Yeah. So you want to show interest. And the way to show interest is to ask questions. But you don't want to ask too many questions. But you don't want to ask no questions. You need to ask just the right amount of questions. But yes, you need to ask questions because it shows interest. And show enthusiasm. Tell people you want the job. Tell them how much you want the job. Tell them you want to work with them. You tell them you're really excited about the technology. Show enthusiasm. Yes. Any other ones? What? Oh, be on time. If you're late, that's yeah. There's lots of great interviewing tips, but those are all really good. All right, got to dress for success. So, what do venture capitalists wear? Suits, but what color? Dark blue, navy blue. That is the color. If you're going to investment banking, what color do you wear? Black. Or it could be pinstripe. Could be gray, dark gray. Close enough. but it was black. So you don't want to be showing up in hot pink, okay? But there is a way to dress for all these different careers, and you need to dress appropriately. Sometimes in discovery research, you dress, general, nothing fancy. But you need to know how to dress. It's really important. I know people who haven't, so for women, you got to dress conservatively. No flashy colors. No miniskirts. Men got to wear the suits, right, with the shiny shoes. Everything's got to be polished and ready. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the economy. So the economy is really changing. In 2007, things were great. Things were just booming. And then we hit that recession. 2008, 9, and 10 were horrible. I mean, horrible, terrible. And during that time, social media was hot. So how it works is when high tech is doing well, biotech is doing badly. When biotech is doing well, high tech isn't doing so well. And it goes like this. That's how it works. Right now, all of a sudden, the biotech window, IPO window is hot. Companies are going public, but it's just crashing now. Just today, in the press. Companies are not, the window is closing, but we had a 10-year drought. There was a 10-year drought where the window was closed. So, here it shows the biotech IPOs, and you can see 2013, we were having more IPOs. And here shows you what happened in 2010. A graph shows it all. So what is how well the public companies perform. And you can see, yuck. And because of that, a lot of venture capitalists lost a lot of money, and a lot of venture capitalists went out of business. And a lot of venture capitalists look for other jobs. And then things are back to business, normal. But 2010 was a just really bad year. Where is the top job growth? Well, what is going on, the trend, is that pharma is shrinking and biotech is growing. That's kind of general. Gilead's doing really well, and there was just a great press release today, in fact, about Gilead. Amgen, those are the local companies. Where are the top cities for biotech investing? San Francisco, #1, yay. Although Boston and San Francisco are kind of head-to-head. If you look at California as a whole, we're the strongest. But San Francisco and Boston, sometimes Boston's winning. Let's look at salaries. So this is the top 20 women's comp in 2012. So it's a little bit of old data, but I was looking at, who was earning the most. This is just for women, mind you. So CEOs, 8 million, 1.6, but a really common one was the general counsel. So there were a lot of those, CFOs, chief commercial, chief medical, corporate affairs, operations. So and research institutes also pay well. So don't just think about industry, but here's the top paid research institutes. Somebody at Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, $1.9 million a year. Wow, pretty good. So where are the jobs? Well, it turns out there's lots of jobs in academia. You'd be surprised, especially for clinical positions. There's lots of great clinical positions in academia, research positions, all sorts of positions. And then, of course, the biopharmas, service companies, biofuels, those small venture-backed companies, there's real job growth there. So what are those hot growth sectors? Well, healthcare is really the hottest, if you really think about it. Healthcare and the surgery centers, there's real hiring. And then generics and biosimilars, all drugs eventually become generics, or almost all of them, or biosimilars. So, patents expire. So eventually that's a really big industry. Biofuels is big. Personalized medicine, companion diagnostics, a combination therapy. So if you have cancer, and if you can approach the cancer with multiple drugs in different pathways, you're much more likely to stop the cancer. And then the big one is healthcare IT and telemedicine. So, for example, the big model is that you go to Walgreens, you get your blood taken, they do the tests, they send the results to your doctor and to you. And that's going to really change healthcare entirely. And that's the big model. And the company that's doing that is here, Theranos. And for your information, if you want really cheap tests, it's only $10 for most of the tests. at Walgreens. $10. Theranos. Theranos. And they are hiring. They have like 600 jobs. I don't know how many. A lot. All types. Yeah. Really hot. Okay. In fact, you might have read about, it's Elizabeth Holm. She was an undergraduate at Stanford and started this company. She's worth $9 billion right now. All right, what are skills that are in high demand? Well, regulatory affairs is always going to be hot, and is still hot. Sales, there's always a shortage of good salespeople. Always. We need salespeople. And then any kind of rare skill set. So here's CLIA certification. You don't know what that is. It's Clinical Laboratory Information Amendment. But basically, it's a certification to do clinical laboratory work. And you can get a certification. It's not that hard. But once you're certified, you will get a job like that because there's a huge demand for that. Most people, it could be PhD or not PhD. It's totally separate. Do they have something like that here?
So we have a CLS preparatory program, which basically we help you get all your prerequisites together so that you can get into such a program. And then those programs are usually 2 years. It's usually 1 year of coursework and another year of clinical experience. But it's not a PhD, it's a separate program. And there are several very competitive programs in the Bay Area.
But if you have a CLIA certification, you are guaranteed a job. Just absolutely guaranteed. There's a huge shortage of it. Wouldn't you say? Yeah, huge. But just these rare areas, you need to do your research to figure out where is the market. Where are they really hiring? Like CLIA certification, you never heard of it, right? But if you have that, you're guaranteed a job. But a lot of other things, you're not. Another one, bioreactors, particularly for biofuels. There are not enough people trained in bioreactors, fermentation, quality careers, another area where there's growth. QA and QC, and I saw that there was a certificate program here. That's also a really good area. People don't think about careers in quality. It's actually a pretty difficult career. And so, if you have a quality background, you can get jobs. Fundraising, as I was trying to talk her into. There's rare skills. There's just certain areas where there's demand, and other areas where there's an oversupply, and you need to figure it out. Okay, so the future of life sciences remains promising. This is a great time to get into the life sciences. There are significant unmet medical needs that still remain for all types of horrible neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Cancer still exists. We don't have a cure. Infectious diseases, TB is on the rise again. There's multi-drug resistant bugs out there. We need new antibiotics. Diabetes is huge. Obesity is huge. Cardiovascular disease. If you're in a company that develops drugs for any of these, you're going to make a lot of money. People are living longer, and we have an aging population. Again, that's great for the market. There's a huge market opportunity in China and India and other emerging countries. And then biofuels is going to be big. So this is a great time. There's a lot of promise in life sciences. So final thoughts about finding a job is, first off, don't apply for those glamorous jobs like business development. Try to go to those just, things that people wouldn't apply for. To really find those rare positions that people just aren't interested in, because once you're in the company, you may like the job, or you can move around. But just try to get in, okay? And then really think about temp to hire, working with the recruiters for temp to hire positions, because then once you're in, again, they'll like you, and then they'll hire you. And it's a good experience to work in different companies. And you can also do contract work. Remember that your first job will not be your last, so don't be too picky about the first job, because you're going to find other jobs. There's safety in the biotech centers. So if you're in San Francisco and you lose your job, there's a lot of other biotech companies. You don't need to relocate. So there's safety in the biotech hubs, and it's a great time to start a company. So in conclusion, I hopefully convinced you that there's many different careers, and it's really hard to find that right career, so you need to do some self-assessment and find that career that uniquely fits your skills and your goals, so that you can really make a difference and have a big impact. So do what you love, because there's data that show that if you're passionate about your job, you're more likely to be successful and you will accomplish more. So it's to your benefit to find a job you love. Find your niche. And here is free information. So I have a free chapter on careers and project management. It's at careersbiotech.com. And I also have a listing of job posting sites under career resources on my website. And then here are some books. These are all. Okay, this is a great one. Science Lessons is a great book. It's by Gordon Binder, the former CEO of Amgen, and it really talks about the corporate culture of industry. So basically, Amgen had a science department and marketing, and they weren't getting along, and they did all these clever things to show, like, this is the culture of biotech. So a really great book. Emperor of All Maladies is the history of cancer. Really good book. Good to Great is basically about business, and they use some analytics to try to figure out what makes a good company great and what were the common parameters, and it's really interesting. Put Your Science to Work is a great book by Peter Fisk. For anybody interested in clinical, here's this Career Opportunities in Clinical Development by Rebecca Anderson. It's for the non-MD interested in clinical. There's an entrepreneurship book that just came out. I wrote a chapter by Craig Shimasaki. It's all if you want to start a company, that would be good. And then here's information about my book. It's available on Amazon or Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory Press. Here's my contact information. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And with that, I'd like to, perfect timing, 9 o'clock. I'm happy to stay and answer any questions. So I want to say just start companies, be successful, and may you find a cure for cancer. So thank you.